This is David with High Performance Stoicism. I want to talk to you about Stoic future wisdom. How can we be wiser about the future? To find out, let's first start with a quote from Marcus Aurelius. He says, "How ridiculous and how profoundly a stranger to the world is someone who is surprised by anything that happens to him in the course of his life." End quote. Now, that's a pretty strong statement. It's actually pretty striking if you think about it. He's saying, you are a ridiculous person if you are surprised by anything that happens in your life. And other Stoics say similar things. Now, the point to get out of this quote is that if you are wise, you are not surprised by anything. And if you are surprised by anything, then you are not wise. Well, here's the reality. We are not wise because we are surprised, and sometimes we're often surprised. Well, it's kind of a strange view, I admit that, but how do we deal with it? And the Stoics have answers to this question, which I'm going to outline by considering one of the key things you're going to get by practicing Stoicism, which is handling events much better. And the way you're going to handle much better in this case is by what I call future factoring. Factor in future realities, and your life will go much better. A quote that'll help us in this area is also from Marcus Aurelius, and he says, "Salvation in life comes from always seeing everything as it really is." End quote. Well, how do we see how things are in the future? Try this little exercise. Think of your life as a tapestry that's laid out from beginning until the end, and locate where you are in this giant tapestry that covers many years. Think about what happened earlier today. Think about what happened over the last week. And especially think about the things that you didn't want to happen. You could have been surprised or you weren't surprised. Just think about the things that you weren't particularly pleased with happening. And then take it over several weeks and months and years. And what will you find over that time? Well, the thing to keep in mind is the things that happen regularly at different intervals, the things that happen in the past regularly, those are going to happen in the future too. So think about your last day or so. There were a bunch of obstacles that came up, and you can consider them annoyances, nuisances, hassles, whatever you describe them as. But that's just the way it is. And that's the way it's going to be. Now, when it comes to things that are a bigger pain in the neck, then we're going to say the things that set you back a little, that throw you off course, we're going to say those are setbacks. And setbacks happen where, okay, you get in a little car accident and you're fine, but now you have to take your car to the dealer, and that's setting you back $1,000, $1,500. Okay. You get a minor injury. You get, you don't get the promotion that you wanted. And you would say, okay, that's a setback. You had a client that was, you thought, okay, I'm going to sign this deal, and it didn't work out. You were counting on it. That's a setback. And those do happen. They happen every other week, over a course of weeks, or maybe even every couple months. There will be some setback or another. And then there are adversities. These are things that send you to the hospital. These are things like you are fired and you don't have an idea of what you're going to do after that. Okay. Someone you know and love dies and it devastates you. Those would be classed as adversities. So the Stoic approach to all this is to say, don't do what most people do seemingly automatically, which is wish that all these things are not going to happen, but instead count on them happening. And then when you count on them happening, What's going to happen is you're going to be able to better handle them. And ultimately, if you go all the way in your Stoic practices, you won't be surprised. Now, there's a set of things you can do for each of these that let's talk about. Each of these categories of obstacles, the minor things, setbacks, and adversities. And so for obstacles, what I want you to do on a daily basis is something Marcus did. You can find this in book 2 of the Meditations, where he says, prepare yourself to greet backstabbers, bloodsuckers, cowards, whatever his list of things are. Think of the annoyances that you're going to meet with today. So it could be, I'm going to run into traffic. I am going to get hassled by someone at work. One of my clients isn't going to return a call. Someone's not going to do what they promised. And just think of the 5 or 6 annoying things that usually happen as obstacles over your day, and then just say, they're going to happen. Now, you're not predicting they're going to happen, you're preparing your mind. Now, for things that are setbacks or adversities, it's going to take a little more work. And here's what I want you to do. I want you 2 times over the next month to do a 15-minute adversity rehearsal. And an adversity rehearsal is pretty simple. You set aside 15 minutes on a Sunday before your week, and you think about, what would I really hate to happen? It could be getting fired. It could be even more devastating. Someone gives you divorce papers. And if you're afraid of it, that's the kind of thing you want to do an adversity rehearsal on. And what you do is you sit down for 15 minutes and you say, okay, what doesn't make sense will happen. I'm not going to let my fears dictate my feelings on this. I'm going to say, here's what would happen if my spouse divorced me, and then think of all the ramifications of it and all the things that you wouldn't want to be a part of it, but likely would. Then what I want you to do is I want you to go through all of the upsides that come with it. So in this case, you're going to get a fresh start. You have an opportunity to be shocked out of your complacent attitude. You have the opportunity to meet new people. And so you can think of a number of things. I can move to a new area. You think about what the upsides are, but you're going to find what they are. And then think about realistically when it makes sense that you will start to feel like you're getting back on track. But here's the key. If you do an adversity rehearsal for such an event, what's going to happen is you're going to handle it much better, and you're going to have some objective ideas about what the ultimate results will be. Because remember, from psychology, we know we are all impacted by the negativity effect. This has been shown in psychology. We think of the bad side of things, but we don't think of the upsides of things. In this rehearsal, you're going to think about some of the upsides because, trust me, they are there. Now, there's one category of event that we haven't covered because everything we've talked about is something that is likely to happen. But the Stoics say to go beyond this. Seneca himself says, don't think about just what is likely to happen, think about what is possible to happen. And here, I just want to say briefly, we're talking about worst case rehearsals. These are the worst things that could happen and they're improbable, but they happen to some people. And so think about, what if a hurricane or a tornado came through your village and destroyed your house? What would happen if you got home and there were people that were criminals with weapons in your house? Think about if a war was started in your country. And so, yes, at this point, these things might be improbable, but it's good to think through these things because maybe something that is like this or similar to this that is pretty horrifying, by doing a little worst case rehearsal in your mind, you can start to think about, okay, how would I act prudently, wisely, How would I act courageously in this situation? And going through the rehearsal a little will help you to see how best to prepare yourself for such things. Because remember, even if it's improbable, if it's has some probability, it's going to happen to someone at some point. So you be the wise person and do some future factoring. And then guess what? All the other things we're talking about, you'll be able to handle easier. Because if you can think in your mind, here's what would happen if criminals broke into my apartment, they burst into my house with weapons. It's going to help you to see, okay, what am I going to do if I hit my traffic jam? What am I going to do if I get fired? You'll see these things are much lower in terms of how bad the impact would be for you, and then you'll be able to handle them better. So remember that goal. You want to handle all events better. That's a constant in Stoicism. And future factoring is going to help you to be less surprised, to be ready for anything. That's it for today. Give me a like, subscribe, and give me a comment, and we'll see you in the next video.